This is the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League podcast with your host, Jason Peck. That's right, you Gooshbags. Welcome into week 3 of the 2023 Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League podcast, baby edition. I am your host, the commissioner, the host with the most, the commissioner of the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League podcast, commissioner of the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League, and the host of the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League podcast, Jason Peck. That's right, boys. We're back. We're back again with another episode of the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League podcast. Glad you guys are joining me this week. Got a little bit of time here on Friday afternoon to kind of knock this bad boy out. And we're going to start. I'm going to start on a different note today. We're not going to start on a sad note. We're going to start with a happy note. And we're going to do this. The top scorer in the league. Alexander Hamilton. That's right. It's James this week with 148.98 fantasy points. Put up a massive week this week. It is worth noting, since I wasn't here last week for week 2, it is worth noting that I won the $10 last week. But James, I sent the money to you, and you are good to go. Congratulations for scoring a lot of points this week. I'm kind of skipping the injuries this week. I don't know if there were any bad ones. I didn't look it up. Nothing on my teams really were injured that much, so I wasn't too concerned about it. If you guys would prefer to have the injuries back, we can do that. Obviously, if there's a major injury to somebody on my team, I'm going to bring it up. But other than that, maybe as I go through the matchups, I'll see. But I didn't spend the time to kind of dive into the injuries this week. But because I was spending time doing other things, and you'll see later on in the podcast. But we're going to jump right into the head-to-head matchups for last week. Last week's head-to-head results. All right, boys, we did it. I'm going to start with matchup number 1, Nakua Matata. What a wonderful phrase. Nakua Matata. Ain't no passing craze. Versus Let's Brandon Cooks. Now, this one was a tight matchup. It went down to Monday night, which there were 2 football games on Monday night, but it came down to that Monday night matchup. And Nakua Matata came out on top, 119.5 fantasy points to Brandon Cooks' 118.22. I believe going into Monday night, it was, who was playing? Was it Philadelphia and Tampa Bay was one of the games on Monday night? Yeah. So I had Mike Evans and Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams. And I was down, I don't know how much. I was down quite a bit. And he had... You had somebody going. Oh, Devonta Smith. Yes, Devonta Smith, who has been really good this year. So I was a little scared. I was going into it as the underdog and came out on top. I got not a great game from Kyron Williams or Puka Nacua. They were under 10 points each, but Mike Evans did get me 14.5, and that pushed me just enough to get my 3rd victory of the season. That's right, it's week 3. That means I'm 3-0. And you'll find out who else the other 3-0 matchup is, but we'll get there. But spoiler alert, we're playing each other this week, so there's only going to be one undefeated team remaining after week 4. All right, for the booms, the booms and the busts for this matchup. So I had Justin Herbert, who put up 29.3 fantasy points. He is the quarterback 1 on the year, or he was going into this week. I think the teams that played last night, Jordan Love probably outscored him now, and so the week 4. Going into week 4, he was the number 1 quarterback. We had Christian McCaffrey, who put up 20 fantasy points. And everybody else was good or decent, not bad. The only bad player really was Darren Waller. He put up 3.5. But we had Chris Olave with 14, Mike Evans with 14.5. Jake Moody putting up 12 fantasy points for me, so pretty good. On the other side of the ball, it was kind of mediocre for the vast majority of your players, except for Keenan Allen and Jerome Ford. They put up massive weeks for you this week. Keenan Allen had 36.46 fantasy points. He was on the other end of my Justin Herbert start. One passing touchdown for Keenan Allen that could have been Justin Herbert's as well, so that padded his stats a little bit. And then he also had 18 of 20. He went 18 of 20 receptions for 215 yards outside of that, so it was an insane day for Keenan Allen. Just a monstrous game. He didn't have a receiving touchdown, but he had a passing touchdown. And like I said, Jerome Ford put up 18 points with 2 touchdowns last week as well, so big week. And then Tyler Bass put up 15 fantasy points. Outside of that, nobody else. I guess Michael Pittman had 12, and Justin Fields had 10. So it was kind of a rough week for everybody else. You had quite a few players on your bench who scored pretty good. Zach Moss, for some reason, was on your bench, put up 21.5. If you would have played him over Breece Hall, you would have stomped me. So, Breece Hall is kind of disappointing this year, but, maybe he'll turn it around here. On to matchup number 2. We've got Saquon UC versus Jerry's Kids. Now, Saquon UC put up the second most points of the week, put up 143.36 fantasy points to Jerry's Kids 137.96. Benaya's team did take them down. This was a week where we had some massive fantasy weeks. So Benaya's team was led by Raheem Mostert, who put up 41.7 fantasy points, and he wasn't even the top running back on his own team fantasy-wise. He had 4 touchdowns total as Miami put up 70 fantasy points versus the Broncos. You had pretty good games from everybody. You had Alexander Madison, who put up 15. We had Jamar Chase, who finally put up 20. We had Stephon Diggs, who put up 15. And Evan McPherson, your kicker, putting up 18 fantasy points. So, they kind of made up for the Dak Prescott, who only put up 14. The Taysom Hill, who, a.k.a. Kirkland Tebow, who put up 2.6 fantasy points. On the other side of the ball, we got Justin Jefferson on Jerry's Kids team, who put up 24.4 fantasy points. We got Deebo Samuel putting up 22. And Trevor Lawrence, actually, your guys' quarterbacks scored the exact same amount of points, 14.36 fantasy points. So that was good. And we got Kenneth Walker leading your team with 29.1 fantasy points. So a big week from Kenneth Walker and your 2 leading wide receivers, and that kind of pushed you over the edge here. Not pushed you over the edge because you lost, but you had a very good week. I think you were the 3rd overall scorer for this week. So just an unfortunate loss for Brandon's team this week. Moving on to a much lower scoring game. We've got Hold My Gibbs versus Mix and Match. And this is Chad and Ryo. And as I kind of teased a little bit earlier, Ryo is the other currently undefeated team in the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League. Fantasy Football League. I can't say that without saying podcast at the end now. He has 104.02 fantasy points this week versus Hold My Gibbs' measly 72.16. Not a good week from your team, Chad. We had Jordan Love, who was the lone bright spot on your team, putting up 24.26 fantasy points, outscoring Josh Allen on the other side of the ball. But other than that, you didn't have anybody over 10. So, like, single digits McGee over here. Harrison Butker, actually, was your second highest scorer with 12 fantasy points. So I lied. You did have one other person over 10. On the other side, it looks pretty similar, except the top, the running backs over here for Mix and Match. We have Joe Mixon and Travis Etienne, who put up 13.5 and 15.8 respectively. And then Tyreek Hill put up 26.2 fantasy points, and everybody else on your team was in single digits. So kind of a rough week from everybody else. Not your highest scoring week for sure. Kind of got lucky with this win because there were I think I don't know how many you were on the lower half for sure of scores this week, so you got lucky this time, and you won't get to go so lucky this week. So you're gonna lose, but just this week, Ryo. On to this next matchup, we've got Ridley's Roulette versus my Metcalf hurts. This was a close matchup as well. We had my Metcalf hurts pulling it out, 95.08 fantasy points to Ridley's Roulette's 93.52. So just over 1.5 fantasy point difference. It was a close matchup. We got Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff, leading things off. And these are just kind of, like I said, kind of mediocre teams. I mean, both of them scored under 100 fantasy points. But we had, just kind of average games from the vast majority of people. On my Metcalf hurts, we got DK Metcalf, who put up 14.2. We've got Amari Cooper, who put up 21.1. That was a massive game for Amari Cooper. And then, kind of got duds from Josh Kelly and Cole Kmet and Rachaad White. Josh Jacobs is looking rough. Matt Breida, so, not the greatest. We got Tony Pollard on the other side putting up 13.6. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown with 15.1. George Kittle with 12. And Marquise Brown with 14.5. So not so great. But, I don't know what to tell you, Adam. That was not a good matchup. But, hopefully both of you guys can turn it around this week. So we'll see. On to matchup number 5. We got Team Go Clifford versus my tight end Ertzwin Eifert, which you shouldn't be naming your team that. Like all of last year, you shouldn't be naming them this year because you don't have any of those players on your team. So consider a name change, please. But Team Go Clifford, like I said, was the highest scoring team this week. He had 148.98 fantasy points to my tight end Ertzwin Eifert's 126.68 fantasy points. Leading Team Go Clifford was Lamar Jackson. No, was Devontae Adams, putting up 35.7 fantasy points. So a massive week from Devontae Adams against Pittsburgh. 13 of 20 for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pretty good. We had Lamar Jackson putting up 28.18 fantasy points. He's starting to wake up a little bit. We got James Conner with 18.6 fantasy points. Mike Williams with 21.6. So some pretty big boom, and A.J. Brown for 17.6. So pretty big boom games for Team Go Clifford. Definitely a massive week for a massive win, and you're 2-1. Congratulations. On the other side, my tight end Ertzwin Eifert. He had an unlucky loss because he put up the 4th highest points of the week. He had Pat Mahomes with 25.68 points. Miles Sanders with 14.7. Isaiah Pacheco with 14.8. Jacoby Myers had a decent game, 12 fantasy points. Actually, everybody in your team scored over 10 fantasy points except for your kicker, Justin Tucker, which is really surprising. But everybody else had over 10 fantasy points. I'd honestly consider that a very good week. But unfortunately, team couldn't quite pull it out this week. All right, now we are on to the next segment of the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League, the weekly awards. Now, I don't have a drop for this because I don't. I just didn't make one. So, sorry, guys. But we have the weekly awards for this week. The best team of the week was Team Go Clifford, like we said, with almost 150 fantasy points. The worst team of the week was Chad with 72.16. The most efficient manager was Aaron Buck, who did play his most optimal lineup, so congratulations. However, wasn't enough for a victory. The least efficient manager was Brandon Metzler, surprising. He was the third highest scorer of the week with 137.96, but his maximum points was 187.56 fantasy points. I'm assuming that you had Devon Achane on your bench. You also had the highest points in the loss, like we said, 137 fantasy points, 138. The lowest points in the win was Neil with 95.08 fantasy points. The biggest blowout was Ryo surprisingly, with 104 fantasy points to Chad's 72.16. The narrowest victory goes to Jason, me, with 119.5 fantasy points to Quartz's 118.22, so just over 1 point difference. The overachiever of the week was Team Go Clifford, aka James, he scored over 40 points over his projected total. And the underachiever was Chad, who scored 72. His projection was 86, so 14 points under his projection for this week. Now I have... Oh, here we go. Yeah. I have the... I started the spreadsheet again. Started the new spreadsheet for this year. Collecting all the weekly awards. We'll see if we keep up with it. Hopefully I do. That's the plan. And essentially this bad boy is going to keep track of all the best teams, worst teams, all those awards that you're getting for this from Sleeper. And I'm going to see if there are any trends. So right now, I'll look at the 2023 awards total tally. There's one team who has had the best team 2 of the 3 weeks, and that is me, of course, Jason. I've got 2 of those. I also have 2 of the biggest blowouts, which I think were both of the first 2 weeks. And then I also had I had the 2 biggest blowouts, and then the narrowest victory this week. So those were pretty close. Let's see if there are any others with 2. Yes. Benaya has had the Underachiever Award for 2 of the 3 weeks this year. The highest points and loss, so this is a bad luck award, goes to Brandon, who's gotten it twice so far. And that's it for people who have 2 out of the 3. I'll keep pointing out some of the higher point totals for each of these categories. A lot of the other ones are just 1s across the board, so no specific team has more than anybody else in those categories. So yeah, we'll keep a tally on it. Benaya, I didn't do exactly what you were saying in the chat about. Let's see, what'd you say? Oh, any trends? Teams' reputations based on last year's awards. Like I said, I only got through, let's see, I stopped after week 9. Let me look at the awards tallies from week 9 last year. So the lowest points in a win, so that's a lucky, I would give that a lucky feat or a lucky feature for a team. That's Aaron's team, who had 3 of the 9 weeks he had the lowest points in the win. The worst team was Chad's team, 3 of the 9 weeks as well. I don't see any other 3s in this matrix, so it looks like everybody else kind of had, everything else was starting to balance out. It is worth mentioning that I never had the worst week, along with Benaya, Brandon, Ryo, and Aaron. We all never had the worst team of the week. I also had I never had the most efficient manager feat, which is kind of funny. Also, Ryo and Aaron and Quartz also didn't get the most efficient manager award. Least efficient manager, Neil got it twice. Everybody else was kind of spread out along once. James didn't get it. Benaya didn't get it. Ryo didn't get it. Other than that, that's all I've got for those. Those are the things that stand out a little bit for me. But yeah, so that's the weekly awards segment. And then, like I said, these are going to be a little bit shorter this year. I've got limited time on Friday afternoons, and then also, prep work is going to be minimal in general, especially going forward. We're going to be having a kiddo within the next month here, so it will be busy. It'll be busy. So we are going to move on to next week's matchup predictions.
I can see the future! I have to stop you from destroying my race! In the future!
We already did that.
I knew you'd do that!
He knew that he would do that. And I know who is going to win in week 4 of the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League. We're going to start off with the first matchup of the week. We've got Nakua Matata. What a wonderful phrase. Versus Mix and Match. Now this matchup is already getting kicked off here. We've got Aaron Jones on my team who played last night. Unfortunately, that was a rough Packers game. And he only scored, for some reason, he was only out on the field for like 40% of snaps. Less than that, maybe? Or actually, they probably had the snap numbers. Let's take a look. Game log. Yeah, 35% of the snaps. So that drives me nuts. He was clearly better than A.J. Dillon when he was out on the field, so that makes me sad. But so I had Aaron Jones playing, and he only got me 1.9. Fortunately, Ryo has David Montgomery, but he didn't play David Montgomery, so that was good for me. That was great for me. So that is good. Let's take a look at the rest of the matchup because David Montgomery put up 30 fantasy points, and I'm glad that he is not playing against me. So on my side, we've got Justin Herbert versus Vegas. We've got Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, Puka Nacua, a.k.a. Puka Cooper Cup Jr. We've got Chris Olave. We got Darren Waller. We've got CeeDee Lamb and Kyron Williams and Jake Moody. I think that's a pretty good lineup. We've got Josh Allen on the other side with Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon. Both of those tough matchups versus Atlanta and versus Tennessee. Tyreek Hill with the on the other side of the ball with Josh Allen. We've got Dustin Hopkins. No, DeAndre Hopkins. Hunter Henry. Chris Godwin. James. No. Javonte Williams. That's the word I'm looking for. Javonte Williams. Against Chicago, that should be a smash matchup, and Nick Folk. As good as that team looks, my team looks better. We're going with Nakua Matata in matchup number 1 for week 4. Matchup number 2, we've got Saquon UC versus my tight end Ertzwin Eifert. I already know this is a slam dunk. It's going to be Saquon UC easy because my tight end Ertzwin Eifert sucks this year. Sucks. He sucks. But anyway, this one has also gotten started. We've got Sam Laporta, a.k.a. Little Kittle, putting up 7.6 fantasy points in the Thursday night game. We've got Anthony Richardson, we've got Alexander Madison, we've got Raheem Mostert, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Sam Laporta, Saquon Barkley, who is a maybe, Brandon Ayuk, also a maybe this week. Did Brandon Ayuk practice? He limited practice on Thursday. I don't know about Friday. Saquon was doing individual drills on Friday. I don't know. They're saying he's not guaranteed to play. I don't think he will. If he doesn't play, you've got Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Brian Robinson. Yes, I was thinking Bijan, but I knew you didn't have Bijan. Kadarius Toney, George Pickens, and Dallas Goedert. So I would probably be playing Brian Robinson. Maybe, I don't know. He got some tough matchups. All your bench players have some tough matchups. But I'd probably play Brian Robinson instead of Saquon Barkley there. Or George Pickens. He's okay. But, yeah, I still think you got a very solid lineup here. On the other side, we've got Patrick Mahomes, Miles Sanders, Isaiah Pacheco, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Swift, who has been good, surprisingly, and James Cook, who's also been good. And Justin Tucker. No, I think Benaya's team is pretty top heavy here. Anthony Richardson can go off any week. He's got that running stuff. We got Raheem Mostert, the paragon of perfect health. We got Jamar Chase, 2 middle fingers apparently, and Stephon Diggs. I think you got a pretty solid core there, and everybody else is just bonus points. So I got Saquon UC winning this matchup. Matchup number 3, we got Hold My Gibbs versus Jerry's Kids. And as the title says, we've got Jamar Gibbs, who played last night in that game on Thursday night, who put up 7.1 fantasy points to start off Chad's team. We got on this team, we got Joe Burrow, Jerick McKinnon, Jahmyr Gibbs, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Kyle Pitts, Quentin Johnston, Jackson Smith and Jigba, interesting start, and Harrison Butker on the bench. I'm just trying to see if there's anybody who I would play above Jackson Smith and Jigba and Quentin Johnston. No, your bench sucks, Chad. It sucks. It's rough. On the other side of the ball, we got Trevor Lawrence, the newly reminted Alvin Kamara, whose legs now weigh the same, as opposed to one being like 2 pounds heavier than the other, and that was why he was having it. I don't know. There's some BS about his legs weighing differently, and that was causing him issues. We got Kenneth Walker, Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel, Mark Andrews, DJ Moore, Christian Kirk, and Jake Elliott. Yeah. I like Jerry's Kids to win this matchup. I mean, he's projected to win by 24. So, yeah, I got Jerry's Kids. Chad, your team sucks. All right, on to matchup number 4. We've got Ridley's Roulette versus Team Go Clifford. And this matchup, man, we had a lot of players playing last night. This matchup has already started. We got Jared Goff, who put up big 11.4 fantasy points last night. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who put up 14.10 fantasy points. So it started them off with a 25.5 point lead. Who else has he got? He's got Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Amon-Ra St. Brown, George Kittle, Jordan Addison, Marquise Brown, and somebody Aubrey. Brandon Aubrey for the Dallas Cowboys, all playing in this matchup. On the other side, we've got Lamar Jackson, James Conner, Ramondre Stevenson, Mike Williams, who is currently on the IR, so better check that bad boy out. We got Devontae Adams, Evan Ingram, Dalvin Cook, A.J. Brown, and Young Hui Koo. Yeah, I would take out Mike Williams and probably put in Tutu Atwell, honestly. For this matchup. If you do that, I think you got a good chance of winning. Derrick Henry has looked rough. Yeah. I think this is tough. I think if you switch out Mike Williams, who's on IR, and you put in Tutu Atwell, I got you winning this matchup. If you don't, then I got Ridley's Roulette. And that is the final answer. On to the last matchup of the week. We've got Let Brandon Cooks versus... See, your team name confuses me because we have a Brandon in the league. So, Let Brandon Cooks versus my Metcalf Hurts. We've got on Let Brandon Cooks, we've got Tua Tagovailoa, Bijan Robinson, Jerome Ford, Michael Pittman, Keenan Allen, T.J. Hawkinson, Devonta Smith, Zach Moss, and Tyler Bass. On the other side, we've got Jalen Hurts, Austin Eckler, Josh Jacobs, D.K. Metcalf, Amari Cooper, Cole Kmet, Josh Kelly, Rashad White, and Jason Sanders. Yeah, I like Let Brandon Cooks for this matchup. He's projected to win by 10, and I agree with that projection. You just don't have the star power, Neil. You just don't have it. Austin Eckler is a maybe. He may be coming back. He has a limited practice. And then Josh Kelly and Rashad White as your flexes, man. It's rough. Maybe once Christian Watson's back full, and then, I'd probably play some Gabe Davis to get you some upside instead of Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly has looked atrocious, so I wouldn't have both Josh Kelly and Austin Eckler in your matchup here. I'd play some Gabe Davis. That's going to be a massive game. I don't think that's going to be enough to tip the scales in your favor. I've got Courts winning this matchup. All right, boys. that'll do it. Like I said, these are going to be quick, painless, easy. Like I said, if you guys want anything else, I'm open to hearing ideas. Like I said, it's got to be kind of limited as far as time-wise goes, if I can throw something together for it. But yeah, I'll do my best to accommodate any sort of requests, and we'll go from there. But guys, good luck week 4, except you, Ryo. Your team sucks. I hope they lose just this week. And I will see you guys next week for the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League Baby Edition. Let's go. See you guys. Have a good one.